Pregame.com.
9 p.m. Eastern game on Thursday night on ESPN is the battle in the Big Ten between Illinois and Wisconsin for Madison. He's Bryan Leonard. I'm Scott Spreitzer. We're going to break down this Big Ten clash. And, you know, Bryan, I do this little article that I've been putting just about everywhere and started adding it to pregame over the past few weeks. Each and every Monday night, look at the top 25 and break down who I think is the most overrated, the most underrated, and a team that's outside of the top 25 that I feel should be ranked. And I like to do it because it gives me kind of a little bit of a heads up, I think, on games that are coming up in the next week or so for some of these teams. And we've got against Louisville, in fact, when they were ranked in the top 5. We got them knocked out of the top 25 finally. But I kind of like when the pollsters and then the public subsequently looks at this top 25 and overrates or underrates teams and leaves a couple of teams out of the top 25 that probably should be in there, because obviously we get more public numbers when that is the case. I featured both of these teams over the past month at one point or another as being more overrated top 25 teams. Illinois, or I should say Indiana, we went against last week when they got beat in Lincoln against Nebraska. Now that was a fortunate win because it could have gone either way in the final minute and a half, and we got it to go our way. At the same time, the Wisconsin Badgers, man, they can come out one night and look like they can beat anybody in the country, come out the next night and look like they have no business shooting the ball from anything further than 10 feet out. It's been that crazy for this Wisconsin team this season.
Yeah, we had Wisconsin against Illinois. It could have been last week, I believe. They just blend from one week to another. But, you know, when you're taking a look at teams that you should get on a normal level, it would be a Wisconsin, you would think, because they play low-scoring games, they play great defense, and you would think there would be less variability because you're shooting 1 minute you're great, next minute you're bad. And it's interesting, and in fact, this is going to be a really interesting game because you've got two different styles of play. Indiana wants to run, Wisconsin wants to slow the pace down. You've got an Indiana team who's 50% from the field shooting, 5th in the country, 44.9% from three-point range, but you got a Wisconsin who's number 1 in the country, field goal defense, number 5 in the country defending the 3. So if there is ever a correlated parlay, I think this is it.
Yeah, definitely. I can see what you're saying. And, you know, it's funny when you mentioned how Indiana has been so hot from not only the field, but from the three-point line. They don't live and die by the three-pointer, which is good. They shoot it within the context of the game. They're not going to come out normally and fire 25, 28 three-pointers at any given game. It's usually, you know, probably around 14 to 15 per contest, more often than not. But I think in a game like this, when you're going up against a team that plays good perimeter defense, like you mentioned, Wisconsin, one of the best in the land when it comes to field goal defense percentage, when it comes to three-point accuracy defense, this team doesn't give up a lot, and they give up about 49 points a game. They're number 1 in the country in that category. So I'm watching Tom Crean and Indiana when they go on the road and they tend to struggle away from home. They tend to not get the ball into Cody Zeller early in the game to get him active. This is a big 7-footer, arguably the best true big man in the Big Ten, and sometimes the guy's shooting the ball 7 or 8 times a game. I would love to see Crean, and I know he's a coach and I'm not, but we analyze these games from a different perspective, and we don't have the pressure of having to actually put a team out there and win that game from a coaching perspective, so sometimes we're not as clouded when it comes to our judgment. When I'm watching Tom Crean, I'm thinking, man, in a game like this, I want to see Cody Zeller getting at least 14 to 15 shots from in the paint. You're talking 10, 12-footers and some dunks and some layups, because if you ignore him early on, Wisconsin's going to do what they want to do on defense. And if they do what they want to do and don't have extra pressure on the defensive end, then maybe you don't knock them off kilter when it comes to their shooting at the offensive end. If you got them on their heels, having to camp in a little bit more in the paint, and they're having to really pay attention and back down inside to try to deny Cody Zeller the ball, it could throw them off offensively also.
Yeah, I agree. Not even if it goes inside just to shoot. Just throw the ball inside, bring the defense back in a little bit, pop it out to the three-pointers, and I just talked about how good they are from shooting from three-point range. So, you know, we see it in the NBA with the Orlando Magic. I mean, if Howard ever gets traded, those three-pointers are never going to put up these kind of numbers anymore the rest of their lives.
Yeah, you kick it out when he gets covered inside, and obviously if he's not double-teamed, he can go ahead and make and he's got a nice shooting percentage, talking about Cody Zeller. The one thing about Wisconsin, like I said, though, man, this team, you know, I'm watching them against Nebraska, didn't get involved with the game. They win 50-45 in Madison. They only win by 5 points. And they were 2 for 18 from the arc. They had a couple of games earlier in the season where they lost back-to-back, including a home game where they couldn't make anything from the arc. Just terrible shooting percentage. Now, the last 2 games, they're 21 for 45. Before I can really get involved with Wisconsin, I got to figure out when this team's going to shoot well or when they're not. And until I can do that, I can't see laying a lot of points from my angle on this one. I'm going to turn it over to you. I know you've got great information when it comes to where you project the line, where it should be, and how many points you think a team's going to win by. And I trust that more than the stats in this one.
Well, I'm going to lay the points here with Wisconsin, and the reason being that Indiana is so determinant on the pace of the game, and they're going to be on the road. And he talked about how they struggled on the road. Now they got to go on the road and play the slowest team, 344th in the country in pace, Wisconsin. So Wisconsin's going to dictate the pace here. So you got a team playing at home, and Wisconsin's beaten Indiana 10 straight times in this building. And Indiana's had some pretty good teams over the years. I mean, they've been down the last couple of years, but this has always been a tough place for them to play. The style of play is going to suit Wisconsin. Indiana not playing well on the road. I think we get a little bit of advantage here. Wisconsin started the year a little bit slow. You know, they did beat UNLV. But they've had a lot of other games, as you pointed out, that just did not play well at all. So we're getting a team now just starting to gain a little confidence, and Indiana's a team, when they go on the road right now, I don't think they go into those games thinking they can win.
It's Indiana at Wisconsin, 9 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN on Thursday night. Also, be sure to check out pregamevideos.com all week long, each and every day. Game notes provided with each and every game. And if you have questions, be sure to ask the experts, and we'll get back to you on some of those questions. He's Bryan Leonard. I'm Scott Spreitzer. Indiana, Wisconsin, check it out. And don't forget to see our videos in the NBA for Friday. That's the battle between the Spurs and T-Wolves. Also, Thursday night, early action between NC State and North Carolina.